Welcome to the Chain Masterclass here at the Fabled Academy. Today we are taking a look at the basics with Chain, with one of the most known players in the game, Pablo Pintor, who also did win the first Flesh and Blood Pro Tour. Pablo, welcome to the Academy.
It's an honor being here and talking with you again. As I have said it many times, you were like first person ever to did an interview with Flesh and Blood. So you will always have that special spot in my heart. So when you told me that you wanted to do like this tech profile for Chain, I thought, hey, I can't miss this one.
Man, it's so amazing. We already talked a few minutes before the recording. We don't get to see us often, but it's always a pleasure to take the time and talk to each other. And I'm so looking forward to Worlds and see you again in person.
It will be awesome. Barcelona is a nice city too. I'm sure we'll have a really good time.
For sure. Before we talk about Chain and what his position is in Living Legend, to the viewers, I want to say check out the basics video for the Living Legend format if you haven't already, because that basically covers everything you need to know for preparing on the Living Legend format. And in this video, we will specifically cover the basics with playing Chain bound by Shadow. Let's dive into him. Pablo, for the beginning, let us dive a little bit more into your experience with Chain.
Oh, I have been playing Chain since when seeds were banned. Chain was extremely powerful when he came out with Monarch. I was playing when Monarch came out, but I was just at a really local, casual level of playing. I was just getting destroyed by him during armories. I was pretty happy with my Bravo deck. I didn't think much of playing Chain. It was expensive to get another deck. Well, I got a little bit more serious because I was going to play the Pro Tour New Jersey. We were in the middle of Starvo meta. It was like complete Starvo domination with the Casino deck. And some good friends of mine from the States told me that Chain still had this fighting spirit in him, that you should still test him a little, try these new changes we have thought. And yeah, based off that, we started playing, me and my team, the Sunflower Samurais, especially with one of my friends who traveled there and played non-stop games of Chain and against Chain with me, cramped in a little room in our Airbnb, Daniel. So we played a lot of games. To this day, I do think that Chain is one of the most engaging and fun heroes there is in Flesh and Blood. He does so many different things and so awesome. He offers a lot of power, but he rewards you for pitch stacking. And at the same time, he's really good at the late game. But he has this explosive, horrendous turns when he hit Gabalito and an Art of War. It was a pretty broken deck. We have to admit that. So it wasn't a surprise that he received the heavy ban on the Seeds of Agony. And even then, he was still one of the best decks in the game, and he completely went off to the Living Legend. He was actually the first hero to go there. Oh, the second one, Starvo. Starvo was a little bit faster. But he was just the first season of heroes going to Living Legend. There was Chain, and he left a blazing trail of destruction, so a lot of people remember him fondly.
Exactly, that's what Chain is remembered for, and that is also a reason why people are looking forward to play Chain again at the Living Legend format. Tell us a little bit more in detail why you like Chain so much when playing him.
Oh, as I have said, it's a very rewarding hero. He always offers a lot of decision. Essentially, Flesh and Blood always opens you a lot of decisions. You have a lot of paths which to take to your turn, because you can use each of your cards to either beat, block them, or play them. And Chain has this extra rush of soul cycles, the cards that you're going to get in your Vanish Zone. So you have to play thinking about what you might or might not get from your Vanish Zone. Many different lines. Do I keep this card in my Vanish Zone to prepare for a bigger turn later or down the road? Do I need to pop off right now? Do I play defensively because I got a real good hand at the start of the game? But usually Chain likes to block a lot during the first turns until he builds a few soul cycles. He offers constant decision making, and it's a really good experience and really rewarding. Once you start learning how he works, it gets much.
You already talked about the most important part when playing Chane, and that is using the banish zone to your advantage. But are there different playstyles with Chane that you can choose from now that he is again available in the Living Legend format?
The new cards from Pintor, the new Shadow Runeblade hero that was introduced in Dust Till Dawn, offer a different playstyle for him. We already saw this in the Blitz format, where there is a really good chain deck that is based off on popping off as fast as you can, playing Rune Chandra generation cards, and these extremely efficient attacks with RuneGate. I don't think that maybe something with that could be tried on the Living Legend format, but it is much more prone to lose to fatigue, I think. Chane had a really solid plan to fatigue. You could do a really big combo turn for 50 plus damage and still have your ally on the table for the remainder of the game. While I don't think that this RuneGate build might be really good and really explosive as it is on Blitz, it may not be as good as the classic one versus fatigue. We are no experts in the Living Legend format. We haven't had any tournaments on it yet, but I do expect most decks to have a plan against Chane, or to be a Starbo and be a lot of good and not have any problem.
Yeah, so fatigue is a very good keyword to talk about in the Living Legend format too. I just yesterday talked about the different meta options with Florent Christian Login, and he was on the opinion that fatigue is not really a playstyle that we would see that often in the Living Legend format, because there are so many explosive and so many fast ways to play. What is your opinion on that? Will we see a lot of fatigue decks like Oldham, or maybe also fatigue Briar or Starvo in the Living Legend format, or is it mostly like these explosive 1 turn 40 damage Fabled or these explosive Chane decks that we will see?
Yeah, fight with the Stupids will be a problem versus most fatigue builds. I do think that Oldham has an auto lose against Prism, and Prism, I don't know, she can still probably be a good pick in the Living Legend format. She still has access to Unlight Sentinel, which counters a lot of the decks in the format, actually. I do think that maybe we can see some Prism decks prepared to fatigue Chane, which seems to be her worst matchup out of all the retired heroes. And I think you're gonna still play against the occasional Oldham Enjoyer. Oldham actually doesn't have such a bad matchup against the Starvo. I don't think he has a really bad matchup against. But yeah, Fi will probably be a tough deck for him.
Let's talk about... Oh, sorry.
You can win though. You can win though. Yeah. Having access to Winter's Well is is something that can never be underestimated.
That's true, and Starvo is Winter Whale's guy too. So let's talk a little bit more about Chane's position in the Living Legend format. What do you think are the best matchups that you can run into with Chane when playing at the Battle Hardened in the World Championship?
I do think you have a really good matchup into Prism. I do expect a lot of Prism players too. After all, during the Battle Hardened Barcelona, there is a Prism statue being given out to the to the winner of the event. So I expect all those Prism mains popping off there. I do expect a lot of Starbos too. I actually haven't tried the matchup when they have access to Awakening. I don't think it should be as bad, because most of the time you're actually behind in life during the game, because you will probably fall like 10 life behind during the early game. So I don't think that this that big of a problem. But yeah, we still have to try it. I also haven't played in my whole life Chane with seeds. I don't think they are extremely powerful. They offer you a lot of options. I will need to play some games. I haven't had enough time to play the Living Legends format. We're preparing for both Bright Lights Limited and the Classic Constructed meta. So I haven't had any time to play Living Legends, but I do think that Chane might be a tad bit better than the last time I played him.
When talking about the matchups, it's also important to think about those matchups that you are feared to run into with Chane when playing the Living Legend format. Are there any heroes that you can specifically think of when going into the battle hardened with Chane.
Yeah, Olding can be a really bad match. He's the best hero playing the fatigue game. And most importantly, because you're not so afraid of fatigue. You're afraid of someone messing up his stack. His ice react does exactly that. Have like your whole plan, your whole hand prepared. This 50 plus damage turn, and he ice react, and you have a really big problem there. He also has access to Stalagmite. Can be really good during the game. So it can get a little bit tricky. It's not a matchup that you will lose every time, but to be really careful. Fi can be a little bit tricky too if he pops up really early into the game and you don't get to build enough cycles. You will probably be struggling a bit, but you're carrying a lot of armor. One of Chane's main advantages was the enormous amount of block he had. I expect him to at least be able to play that game.
All right.
He's really good with 1 and 2 cards in his hand. More so now that he has access to 6.
Yeah. With Chane, are there any other matchups besides Fi and Oldhim that you specifically want to highlight?
Any matchup that has access to heavy disruption. Lexi was a really good deck back in the Star Wars Chane days because she could run a lot of things to play against it. And the Icelander can be... She's another hero who will still hit Living Legend. She's not quite there right now, but she's really good. And she has a lot of tools to actually stop one of your big turns if she tries to play a more defensive game and hit you with channel like free hits during your pop-off turns. It can be really rough. Luckily for us, we have access to one of the most broken cards in the game, the Belittle. So getting that extra blow beach will be really important in those games.
So we will talk about the cards that you can pick for building Chane in the Living Legend format in the second part of showing off the deck list that you prepared for us. But in this video, let's talk about the basics too when playing Chane. So what are the main play patterns that we are looking for when playing Chane at the Living Legend format?
Chane is a really different hero depending on the stage of the game you are. In the early game, you are a really weak hero. Weak. Don't misunderstand me, weak for the Living Legend format. Your hero power only, again, grants you a free go again. That is really good, but your attacks or actions are probably below rate. Most of them are below rate. They are not played from the Vanish Zone. You don't want to play your big turns or your good cards at the beginning of the game. If you hit one of your power cards like Belittle or Art of War, they are probably better off in your arsenal, waiting till you have 2-3 cycles. Your main objective in the early, unless you have a really good hand, is blocking a lot, trying to get to the mid game with a nice, healthy life total, so you can pop off and take the tempo back from your opponent. So I advise that you block as much as you can in the early game. Try not to run too many non-block or 2 blocks in the deck. Because of that reason, and attack back with what you can. Normally, you will want to have 1 card in your hand in these first turns with only a blue, which will often block 2. You can activate Grasp and attack with your weapon. In this case, normally will be the Rosetta Thorn, but more inclined to try the Pan card that I have never been able to play. I have a cold foil one too. It does to play. So yeah, it's not like a much of a value. You're only doing damage. It is not that bad because you are progressing towards your desired game state. That's when you hit 3 cycles. Once you hit 3 cycles with the amount of loot we are running or the amount of loot that you should be running, you will get some cards in your banish every turn, and then you can, unless you have this really cool, extremely big hand, your objective is to block with probably 2 cards from your hand, and then between your arsenal and the 2 cards that you have left, do a ridiculous value. there's a point in the game where you play an attack action from either from your hand or from the body zone. Activate chain attack with some of your balanced attacks, then attack with your weapon, and you can do that with only one card in your hand. I'm talking about 10 value, things like that. So it gets pretty dicey for your opponent. It's really difficult to destroy you. You also have some tools to help you survive. As I have said, you have a ton of block. You're running Carrion Husk. 6 blocks is always good. But you're also running the Dome of Fields that you can play with the Creepers. With spell on Creepers. That's a nice little trick you can do to win some life and regain your hand. Probably being able to take the tempo of your opponent at the point. It has a lot of tricks, and as I have said, you are also running some attack actions that grant you go, and you can do this in our army's turn when you hit an Art of War or something like that. So, except there are like 3 really different stages in the. One of them you will probably only reach the stage if you're playing against fatigue. That is the ultra. So you want to survive in the early, regain tempo and win if possible during the mid game. And if you're playing against fatigue, you should have pitched your way to victory during your late. As I have said, there are combinations that can lead you to 50 plus damage turns that will almost always seal the deal, because if you have played the deck as normally until the mid, you will probably have taken half the health point of your opponent if he's like an extremely defensive deck, because Art of Wars and Belittles do that thing. They push too much damage. You do need to stop playing Belittles once you want to start preparing your pitch stack, because they make you shuffle. Be careful when you draw them later in the game. It's only a go again attack. Don't activate it and activate the second part, because it will mess you up.
So you talked about this massive turn where you can pull up eventually 50 damage with Chain. What are exactly the state that you're looking for when pulling off this high amount of damage?
Oh, so this usually you will want to have 1 Sipping Shadows. That's the reason why we are playing 1 blue Sipping Shadows. You can play 1 Sipping Shadows, 1 Bounding. That's of 1 blue in your hand. That's 5 damage that you didn't have to waste your ability or any going. So you want to reach this game state where you can play, as I have said, these Shipping Shadows with a Bounding hand, activate the Creepers, play the 3 copies of Howl from Beyond. Yeah, and non-attack keys you go again, like Moblin Skies or anything, or Shadow Puppetry. Play the 3 copies of Riftbind. When you do that, you will also be able to play Ursur and do a pretty massive turn. It's a lot of damage. You can bigger. You need to use your chest to try some resources in the middle of that. But it's an incredibly high damage turn. And now that we have access to seeds, each seed that you play in the turn will be a +4 damage on the total that we have talked, because it will buff the 3 Riftbinds and it will do damage on its own. So you can reach like pretty ridiculous number for 1 turn, and then your opponent still has to deal with the fact that you can, every turn you can activate Chain, create 1 rune chant, activate Chain, attack with the ally, attack with your weapon, and that's still a pretty decent amount of damage if your opponent is low enough on health. So you will probably end up fatiguing him. He ended up 1 life or something like that. So it's pretty interesting. But you do want to reach that game state. The good thing is that you have unfollowed rights to recover some of your non-attack actions if you want to play them for value earlier in the game. That is perfectly fine. You only need to not play any of the Riftbinds if you want to do this massive. As I have said, careful. This is really easy to do, but your opponent can interact with too. You may get hit with a blizzard or something like that. Be a little bit. It will take a little bit damage of you, but as long as you're careful and don't go too crazy with your resources, if your opponent is playing some deck that can tax you, you will be alright.
Yeah. So
don't be afraid of, as a tip, don't be afraid of eating damage of your own blue deck as you set up this turn, because it's trying to fatigue you, they will not win dealing damage to you. You can take all the time in the world, you can lose 20 life to your own blue death if you want, because that's not how the game can resolve.
So relying on your life as a resource is also pretty important here when talking about these kind of powerful decks that we have available in the Living Legend, but it is a question at first to which hero you want to choose. And I think all the viewers that are watching this one are very interested in picking Chane for their hero in the Living Legend format. So now that we talked about the main play patterns to look out for when playing Chane, what are the common mistakes that you would suggest to avoid when playing Chane?
This one is a little bit tricky. The first one, be really careful when you activate Chane. Play something that you want to go again too. Don't mess up and activate your Grasp of the Arknight or something like that. That is like the most basic one. It has happened to all of us. Just be careful that it doesn't happen to you in a tournament. You want to mess that up a few times with your friends maybe, or in your armory, but careful when you're on tournaments with much importance. But yeah, as I have said, don't be afraid of losing too much life during the game. You're essentially cheating on resources. You have much more cards than your opponent. If you're behind 10 life, it doesn't matter if you're drawing 3 more cards than your opponent. You will get to 10 life point. The difference will get reduced in no time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do have to block a lot. It's not intuitive because sometimes your hand is not good at blocking. Believe me, at the start of the game, almost always is better to just block, roll as you can with the blows, and deal a little bit back to your opponent and prep for your really good turns. I have seen a lot of Chane players being afraid of going down in life. Don't be afraid. As I have said, that there will be one point in the game where you will regain, as long as you're not 10 life, there will be one time in the game where you will be able to take back the tempo from them. As we all know, Flesh and Blood is a game all about tempo, and Chane is really good at maintaining it once he gets a lot of cards per turn. He can cheat damage, so he will not. It's not usual that you can do a really big turn once you have hit in 3-4 cycles. You'll just maintain the pressure, and if we are playing the Dust Blade, can get out of hand pretty fast for your opponent.
So we will look at the decklist in the second video, but when talking about the mistakes that are occurring when picking up Chane, is there anything else that you want to include?
As I have said, blocking is really important. Don't be afraid of blocking with a lot of cards, and also be careful when you build your deck, because I know a lot of cards are really powerful and seem really good, but you need to be careful with how much walkthrough, not blocks, you're playing, and also be careful. This is a deck wants to play red cards from the banish zone and wants to keep blue cards in its hand. You cannot run too few blue cards. This is not an aggro deck that will run 15 blues, because you will get screwed up at some point. If you're playing 15 blue, there's no problem. And if you hit with a full red hand, you will be able to do a good turn and an arsenal, one of them that costs 1 or more. You cannot do that on Chane, so be careful. Be careful with that one. And this is especially useful in Chane, in every hero can use. Be aware of what you're pitching, and when you're pitching it, try to keep pitch stack in mind, because if you're playing like an aggro matchup, like Super against the Starbuck, it isn't so difficult that you reach this late game that I have talked about, and you will get decked out, and you will need to have pitched your cards in a certain order to be able to kill your opponent. Be careful of what you block with, what you pitch. There are cards like Sweet of the School Form is a really good card during the early game, while maybe Vexing Malice is not good early game, but they are the opposite during the late game. To get a kill off some important. Decimals is a really strong card, so be careful with that.
All right, so I have a last question here for you in this video, and that is if you want to shout out anyone.
There's too much people that I would want to shout out. As always, my friends, my teammates, back in the Sunflower Samurais, but pretty much every content creator, such as you in this case, because I started playing Flesh and Blood because I lost my main TCG game back in the day, and we were just getting off all the COVID lockdown situation. And we weren't able to go out really still, and seeing a lot of content in the internet was what finally pushed me off to really play the game and try it. And it has been one of the best decisions in my life. I'm really happy that I did it. It was in a big part motivated by these people doing such awesome content freely for everyone to. And I'm really happy that we have seen a lot more new content creators. We have seen how this has evolved into much finer content. Some of it being Patreon or things like that. We have seen Discords grow up from different communities or from podcasts or whatever. So I'm really happy because we do have a pretty global community. I do feel connected to a lot of people, even if I'm here in Spain. I'm not playing with them actually for months, but I'm really happy. So yeah, shout out to the community as a whole and the content creators in particular.
Yeah, I can just underline that. That's really good shout out to give, because that is what also gives a lot of hype for this season that we are in too, right? So we are just right around the corner with the World Championship, and we will see each other again. All these people that you mentioned around the world in Barcelona in about a month only away, and that will be so amazing. I can't wait either. So Pablo, thank you so much for taking the time today and talking about the Chain basics with us. And now we will talk about the deck profile in the next video. Definitely check that out. And yeah, now I can cut that out, but now that's your part to say goodbye. Yeah.
Goodbye. It has been a pleasure being here as always, and I'm really happy that we have another video coming up to delve a little more deeply into a chain deck. And maybe it will not be the best chain deck or the final form, it's an approach, but it's something where people can start working, and I'm really excited to see where decks are headed.
Yeah, and also to all the viewers, thank you so much for sticking on that long. Like the video if you found it helpful, and leave a comment for Pablo to check out. If you haven't yet, check out also the other videos for the Living Legend format on the channel.